Fani say, undo that, just reject it, which they're not gonna do. Nice try, Fani. They're not gonna appreciate this either. Improvidently granted, we know what we accepted, okay? How about you get the heck out of here?
I don't choose to say or do anything that would jeopardize the case or the court's ruling. I prefer to allow them to make their decision based upon what they have and accept it.
Do you believe, as you reflect on this, that your relationship with the district attorney was a mistake?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I believe is this whole conversation is a distraction. That's all.
Fani's lover, Nathan Wade, has a tough time when he sat down for an interview with CNN's Kaitlyn Collins. You can see we're going to get to the full thing, but here is a break in the conversation where Nathan Wade was flagged down by the media person, the lawyer, friend, we don't really know. So then Nathan Wade takes the pause and then gets a little bit of coaching. You can get out there and do it and just say this and just say that. And he comes back out and then basically refuses to answer the question. So it's like, what did you help him with? He says it's all a distraction. So we're going to watch this full meltdown here in a minute. But what else is happening is Fani Willis is also appealing the appeal. She's asking the Court of Appeals in Georgia to reverse themselves from accepting the appeal. So they accepted the lower level court McAfee decision that refused to disqualify Fani. The defense appealed that. And now Fani says to the Court of Appeals, reverse yourself. You should have never accepted that in the first place. And so here is what this looked like from Fani's office. She sent this one in. She's very unhappy about this. And I don't think the Court of Appeals is going to like this. Says here in the Court of Appeals in the state of Georgia, Big Fani Willis is now moving to dismiss the appeal. She says it was improvidently granted. Oh, the judges are going to hate that so much. Your honors, you guys are kind of dumb. Why did you accept this improvidently? Not good. They say on May 8th, this court granted the defense petition for appeal. Now the case has now been docketed, and now Fani Willis asks the Court of Appeals to dismiss the appeal. It was improvidently granted due to a lack of sufficient evidence. It was based on explicit factual findings of the trial court, and we should reverse this acceptance. Now the order concerned various motions to disqualify Fani Willis. Now as the basis for this, the defense asserted that Fani had a conflict of interest. She had a personal relationship with Nathan Wade, who we'll watch in a minute. Now the problem with the theory is that Judge McAfee in his order say there's no actual evidence. So you can't accept this appeal because they didn't give you any evidence. Now as both this court and the Supreme Court have repeatedly held, Georgia appellate courts will not disturb a trial court's factual findings. When a trial court makes determinations about credibility and evidentiary weight, you cannot review those unless they're flatly incorrect, citing some case law. You cannot substitute, Court of Appeals, your opinion on what happened for what the court said. Now, the state respectfully submits, Court of Appeals, with such due deference afforded to the trial court, that's McAfee's factual findings, there is no basis for a reversal of the order. So Fani is happy with the order. Fani's okay. She can stay on the case. Nathan's hot dog is out on the road talking with CNN. She's fine with that. The defendants want Fani gone too. No. You can't just get rid of one of the bank robbers, okay? They both have to go. They're both biased. They're both unethical. She can't continue on. So she says, no, it's fine. You can't reverse this. Now, this is particularly true given the substantial leeway that the trial court afforded the defense in even gathering and submitting evidence to support their various theories and arguments. So she's complaining about the underlying evidentiary hearing. They should have never been able to even get that info. In the trial court's own words, the defense were provided an opportunity to subpoena and introduce whatever relevant evidence and material evidence that they could muster. So the trial court, McAfee's careful and extensive evaluation of the record and its utter dismissal of the central evidence proffered by the defense forecloses any possibility of reversal. Now, the theory of the conflict was that Fani obtained a personal stake in the prosecution by giving her lover, Nathan's hot dog, $700,000 to prosecute the case. She personally hired him to lead the team, and she was sleeping with him, paying him a lot more money than the other white people. The purported financial benefits stemmed from meals and travel that Wade paid for while he acted as the special prosecutor. Appellants argued that the case was initiated, unnecessarily prolonged, in order for him to enrich himself, which is true, because they were going on cruises. I can't even imagine they were working. We looked at Fani's calendar. It was hysterical. She's like meeting with anti-corruption team. It was like lunchtime, 2 hours. Who's that? Nathan Wade. Amazing. So the trial court found that the defense theory could not be supported by the evidence. Sort of, but kind of wrong though, because Nathan's gone now. They say the defense star witness, Terrence Bradley, was such an utter cipher of either credibility or useful information that the trial court felt compelled to discard his testimony in its entirety. That is a weird sentence. The court finds itself unable to place any stock in the testimony of Bradley because he was a liar. His inconsistencies, demeanor, non-responsive answers left far too brittle a foundation upon which to build any conclusions. else other than the fact that, in my opinion, the dude's a liar. Bradley was the linchpin of their entire theory of conflict, but his lack of credibility, he lied, and his credibility was destroyed, meaning he's a liar. And he was saying that what Nathan and Fani were doing was above board, like they were beyond reproach. And then he got obliterated as a liar. So it shatters, I think it diminishes the lie. If he's willing to lie about that, then you think it's probably not true. His extensive testimony and the evidence cannot be considered at this stage of the proceedings at all. I think they're missing the mark here. I'm waiting to see if they're going to get to the argument about the law. I'm fine with them not having to review the lower facts. I think the facts are clear on what the record says, but it's about the application of the law. Now, other evidence in the eyes of this court was either vague, marginal, evidentiary value. Simply put, there's not sufficient evidence that the expenses were not roughly divided evenly, or that the DA was or is currently remains greatly or pecuniarily interested. And so there's not enough evidence here, but the evidence that actually does remain for consideration makes it clear, says Fani. We talked about travel and meal expenses, and the court's frank appraisal of her testimony was that it withstood scrutiny. The trial court allowed the defense to pull together everything they could, and they were even less successful with their suggestion that Fani might have initiated this case just to hire Wade. And so there was no adequate showing that there were financial arrangements here, and when the trial court's findings are considered in light most favorable to its order, the theory of conflict has no factual basis remaining. Again, to the standards that McAfee applied. But if there's a different standard of law that the Court of Appeals dictates, then the interpretation could change. So at this stage, it's like the rules change. At this stage of the proceedings regarding the alleged presence of an actual and disqualifying conflict, the trial court accepted Fani's lies about how she and Wade split her costs, the manner of the case, and Bradley's credibility as it disintegrated on the stand, who was Fani and Nathan's friend. Then they changed. They pivoted from financial concerns to now the timing of the relationship. Well, that's because they perjured themselves. So yeah, they also lied in their affidavit, and the relationship clearly started before they said it did. They lied to the court about that. So that's why the strategy changed, because they lied. But any concerns held by the trial court were dispelled because McAfee was trying to save his butt for re-election. The trial court crafted this remedy squarely within its inherent powers, and the assessment of the facts had not negatively impacted Trump's rights at all. Said that Fani got no material benefit from the relationships, and it was only that there were questions from the continued presence in the case. And so since he's no longer on the case, there is no longer a continued presence. And so the extensive review of her public comments says Fani did nothing wrong. The only statements the trial court examined in greater detail were about the speech on January 14th, but said it did not cross the line because they didn't use the defendants' names. And so this entire appeal should be nuked. And as the trial court has efficiently described in other orders, there's no basis for reversal. So this appeal must be dismissed as being improvidently granted. So for the reasons above, we say this court should grant this motion to dismiss this appeal and let this case get back on track. From F. McDonald Wakeford, Fani's newest little minion over there, since the others have apparently abandoned ship on this case. So F. McDonald Wakeford sends that one in, and Fani is trying to get the Court of Appeals to unaccept the appeal, basically. So it's already been accepted. We're getting appellate memorandums drafted from the defense, and Fani say, undo that, just reject it, which they're not gonna do. Nice try, Fani. They're not gonna appreciate this either. Improvidently granted, we know what we accepted, okay? How about you get the heck out of here? So that is from Fani Willis. Now, the man that she hired, who was extremely competent, very qualified, absolutely not anybody who she hired because she wanted his hot dog or Nathan's hot dog. She worked very hard with him to investigate this claim. He billed $700,000 worth of legal expenses. They traveled all over the world, smashing their heads together to come up with new strategies, legal strategies to get Trump. And Nathan Wade took a little time off to go and not support his ex-wife and kids. And now he's on with CNN, and he's having a rough time. Fani Willis showing us who she hired. Here's how it sounds.
What is your current relationship with the district attorney?
Just as outlined earlier, we are great friends. We speak regularly. The conversation
at 2 in the morning
has changed, though. Whereas before, conversations were about this case. I'm sure you can imagine and appreciate the amount of time that it takes that you have to pour into a case of this magnitude, trying to prosecute those defendants. But our conversations have shifted to how are you handling the threats that are coming your way? Are you being safe? And democracy, the case will live on, kind of thing.
Just to clarify, when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
So, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. It is not a relevant issue in this case. And I think that we should be focusing on more of the facts and the indictment in the case.
Well, as ask because obviously it's still a pending matter. It's going to be before the Court of Appeals. And you talked about how proud you were of all the work that you did in this office. And I think the question that people have when they hear from the Court of Appeals, this isn't happening until next spring, is did the relationship jeopardize that work that you did in this investigation?
And therein lies the issue, why we wouldn't touch upon the work of the Court of Appeals or some higher court, because it's a pending issue before them.
Oh, so you can't talk about it now?
Allow them, take a step back and allow them to take the evidence that they have and do their work, make the decision.
Right, but you did testify to this, and you were asked about, on the stand, about when it started and when it ended. It just wasn't completely clear, because before it said before the indictment, which was August 15th here in Atlanta, and then later the answer was at the end of that year. And so I think that was the clarity that people were seeking of when it started and when it ended.
Sure, and there again, there's a question before the court, and that is the crux of the question. I don't choose to say or do anything that would jeopardize the case or the court's ruling. I prefer to allow them to make their decision based upon what they have and accept it.
Do you believe, as you reflect on this, that your relationship with the district attorney was a mistake?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I believe is this whole conversation is a distraction.
Love each other.
That's all. It's a tool to stop the train, to slow down the inevitable, which is the trial of the defendant's name in the election interference case.
Of course, there's no regrets here. Are you kidding me? Dude got 700 grand, was taking Fani to Willis land repeatedly. He was like coasting for 3 years. Are you kidding? He's like, yeah, I'll go visit the White House counsel's office. Yeah, I'm doing tons of work. Yeah, I'm gonna build this. He built 24 hours in a day. Not even a single pee break. Not even one. He's having a good time, man. So we'll see what happens. Now, Steve Sadow and the defense team are gonna have a lot of fun with this because it's kind of ridiculous. Like, Fani, you're gonna ask them to reverse they just accepted it. You're gonna ask them to reverse themselves. We'll see if that happens. I doubt it. But Steve Sadow, the defense team, Ashley Merchant for Mike Roman, the rest of them will be filing their responses and their appellate memos. A date coming soon. We'll be here ready to cover it. So thanks for subscribing, my friends, wherever it is you're watching this. We'd love it if you like this video and stuck around for the next video that's coming up, because we're going to be talking about Congress, and they're taking some action to stop what's happening against Trump from the various state prosecutors like Fani Willis. What can they do? Can they maybe remove these cases from Fani's jurisdiction and take them up into federal court? Congress is trying to do that. We'll talk about how it's done right here on the next video.